Well, before the break, we spoke about how Republicans are now supporting Roy Moore after denouncing him, and vocally at that. But Mitt Romney, he's not leaving any wiggle room, the former presidential nominee and possible Senate candidate in Utah. He tweeted this out today, quote, "Roy Moore in the U.S. Senate would be a stain on the GOP and on the nation. No vote, no majority is worth losing our honor, our integrity." So the question is, where is the line? What exactly can the GOP stomach here to get a vote in obviously a very narrowly divided U.S. Senate? Joseph Pinions, a Republican strategist. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Richard St. Paul, Republican strategist, former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association. Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Joseph, I'll start with you. Where's the line? We can all ascribe political motives. There always are. There's always elections. I get that. But do you agree with Mitt Romney that, you know, I can't cross this bridge?
Without question. I mean, you cannot profess to be the party of family values and then turn around and endorse and spend money to actively help get a man elected who has a cloud of pedophilia hanging over his head. I mean, the ugly part of what happened is that right now there's a 14-year-old girl in the state of Alabama who's, you know, her mother's boyfriend sneaking into her bedroom, and she's not going to say anything. There's a child right now who's playing Pop Warner football whose coach is doing something inappropriate to him, and he's not going to say anything because the President of the United States just said that children are not to be believed, even when they grow up to adulthood and speak their truth. And so, you know, this is a really sad day in America, I think, on a deeper human level, partisanship aside, politics aside, because we have really, in many ways, given license to the unconscionable.
You know, Richard, about an hour ago, I saw a copy of a check, and you said it better than I could have. Jeff Flake, okay? Republican, conservative Republican from Arizona, who's had his problems with President Trump, and he'll be retiring. He wrote a check for $100 to Doug Jones, the Democrat running in Alabama. And in the note on the check, he wrote, "Country above party." First, the principle of it, and then the politics of it. If a Republican senator said to you, "Richard, what do I do here? I got to give an answer. I can't just duck the question anymore. What do I say about Roy Moore?" Do I say, "Hey, you know, it's his word against theirs. I'd rather have a Republican who's a pro-Second Amendment, pro-life candidate over some Democrat whose positions I disagree on, baggage and all"? What do you tell him?
It's very simple. One, obviously, you say what you're hearing is very disturbing. Secondly, you say, however, it's up to the voters of Alabama to decide whether or not they want Roy Moore to represent them. And that's just the bottom line. Whether we like it or not, whether it's moral, integrity, whatever it is, the voters need to decide whether or not he will represent them.
But while that lawmaker wouldn't have to cast a vote because he's not or she's not an Alabama resident, nor are you in this case, people endorse people. The president chose to not avoid the question. He chose to come out and vocally endorse Roy Moore because he said he's better than the alternative. Whatever baggage he brings, horrific baggage that I spent 10 minutes railing on, he says party in effect over alleged principle. So where is the line on that?
So the politics of it, obviously, from the president's standpoint, is I need Republicans in the Senate to pass the rest of my agenda. Tax reform is basically essentially passed. Health care still needs to go. Immigration reform.
At the risk of having a pedophilia there.
The other point to look at is that Mitch McConnell had mentioned whether or not, now he's been quiet on that, but the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, has mentioned that he could face ethics investigations should he be elected to the Senate. That may be another opportunity.
He said, "I believe the women." He made that clear. He said it on the record, Richard. "I believe the women." The president's daughter said that. I can go through the whole list. You get the point. But he says, "I believe." So if you believe the women and you don't believe this freak, okay, then how can you say let the people of Alabama decide? Technically, that's right.
That's
they
exactly
will.
what happens.
But they can say, "I wouldn't support him."
So Mitch McConnell could simply say, I'm going to let people decide who to vote for. If they elect Roy Moore to the Senate, then I will deal with that.
How about the Republican National Committee opening the financial spigots? Do you think that's appropriate?
For
Come
Republican,
on.
I mean, politically, why wouldn't it be appropriate? If the
Because
president
he's a
is the head,
pedophile, allegedly.
I'm looking at the politics, not at the moral sense. If the president is the head of the Republican National Committee, and he supports a candidate, then the RNC has to support that particular candidate.
No, they don't. And I'll tell you why not.
No, yes,
Todd
they-
Aiken, remember
yes, they
him,
do.
the Missouri Senate candidate who said, you know, women can't get
legitimate?
pregnant from legitimate rape, was his words, okay? Everybody ran from him, hopefully understandably, like the plague. We do realize they did funnel some money in the back end. There should be a line, shouldn't there? I mean, where are we, in crazy town?
But did the president
there,
support them?
there
No.
should be a line, but there isn't, and I think that's been made fairly clear. And to a certain degree, both parties are guilty of it too. There are plenty of skeletons in Democrats' closets as well as on the Republican side. The Republican example is far more glaring and far more serious right now, but there is no morality line right now. It's whatever the benefit versus the cost. It's a cost-benefit analysis, and they think we can stomach the tarnishing of the reputation, we can handle the criticism, because what we get out of it is this vote for the agenda that President Trump wants, and we get the vote that protects President Trump if there's
I think a
impeachment
lot
or
of people,
movement against
Dominic,
him.
agree with that calculation that's being made. Maybe this is hopeful on my part, but I think it's bad math in that this guy is not going to disappear into the ether. He's going to show up with his stupid cowboy hat and leather chaps on, whatever he is in, maybe with his toy gun like from the Toy Story, okay? And he's going to be a reminder every day. And you can bet in every race, he's the guy from Roy Moore's party. I think it will come back and bite them. This is not who you want to be the face of the party, just like Republicans don't want to run that they're Donald Trump in a whole lot of states in this country. I don't think it's going to prove, forget about morally, that's easy. Politically, I don't think it's going to prove to be worth it.
I agree with you. Your assessment is correct. It's going to come back to haunt Republicans, but not now. Right now, it's win at all costs. That is the message that has come from the President of the United States. He squeezed Mitch McConnell to spin completely around and go against what he's already stated. They are going full speed ahead with Roy Moore, and it's clear that the president has said, we'll worry about the consequences later. That's the story
I
of
know
Donald
what
Trump.
he said, but it's the party that I don't get, Joseph. I mean, to me, I get Trump. There's no line for him. Everything's transactional. It's about him first, forget the party. The party's got to worry about where they are when he's gone, okay?
I think that, to your point, Donald Trump has always been about cutting the best deal for himself first and foremost. So, to your point, yes, every party, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, has to be bigger than the president. The party is not defined by one person. And so understand your point to say that if the president of the United States is backing someone, then yes, on some basic level, it is up to the voters of the state of Alabama. But those are my RNC dollars. Those are your RNC dollars. You know, if you're someone who gave $100,000 to the RNC to help get Donald Trump elected or just to help in Republican causes, they are now saying that, guess what? People talking about palling around with terrorists earlier. We're now palling around with pedophilia. That is not something that should be in any way close to conservatism or anything just remotely American. So I think we have a serious, serious problem here.
But that seems to be the minority voice in the Republican Party right now. If there were enough Republicans who had that same position and brought those concerns to the RNC leadership, they would take different action.
I don't believe that it's the minority voice. I think that what's really happening right now is that we have a president, for better and worse, who has run roughshod over the party. He is trying to frame the party in his own image, and I think that ultimately it's going to be incumbent on us as a party to firmly establish what is going to be acceptable or not going to be acceptable moving forward.
Real quick, and I'm all short on time. I want from you two guys. Let's say Moore wins next Tuesday, and polling shows it'd be a surprise if he didn't. Okay, goes up to Washington in January. Are there 20 Republican senators that will join every Democrat to say you're out?
I don't know, and I don't think so, to tell you the truth.
I don't know. And ultimately, I think if we get to that point, it's a very dicey situation to even say that that would be the right decision to make when there hasn't been a civil case or anything adjudicated to prove these things. Do I believe that he's culpable? Yes. I think if someone says it is outside of my customary behavior to be with teenage girls and you're in the friendliest environment possible, then I think you have a problem with teenage girls. You know, I'm not saying something much more substantial than that.
No, real quick also, what we didn't talk about is there is literally a battle between conservatives and moderate Republicans, where moderate Republicans are basically being punished and pushed to be silenced in the party. And so those 20 Republicans would have to be moderate Republicans who all potentially face some type of challenge.
The answer is no. They haven't grown a backbone so far. They're not about to in the next 6 weeks.
I'm going to be the lone voice to say yes. I think there are. I think they look around. It's one thing for this to be some amorphous thing that you look through the TV set and it's in Gadsden, Alabama. But all of a sudden, when he's sitting next to you in the chamber, I think there's enough people to say this is not who I am. But we'll find out, or hopefully we won't. Coming up next, we all knew the Republican tax bill would be particularly costly for people in our area. When I say area, I mean if you're watching me, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, you know what I'm talking about. The question is, did we know it would hurt this much? If you don't know the math, I'll break it down for you after this.